Hi everyone, welcome back to Gavin Reads It All, and I have been failing at living up to my channel name because I think one of the main genres that I haven't really read is romantasy, and the Goodreads Choice Awards has just been announced today. At least I think it was. Maybe it got announced last night. I'm not 100% sure, but I actually haven't done a Goodreads Choice Awards video since 2021. I actually did the middle grade Goodreads Choice Awards that year, and I've never done another one since. And I did find that quite a lot of fun, and I was kind of debating what I should do this year. And this is a concept that has been done quite a few times on BookTube, so this is not my original idea or anything. And just going over the main categories of the Goodreads Choice Awards this year, I am kind of gravitating towards romantasy because, well, one, I haven't read much of it or any of it. I really don't know. I don't know if I have actually read any. And two, I do want to try and branch out as much as possible and read genres that I don't typically read. Oh, hello, Ash. Please don't. Okay. Are you going to try and steal the spotlight from me again during this introduction? Go on then. Why are you always distracting me when I'm trying to work? Huh? So, I mean, there are other categories that I would love to do, but I think sticking to romantasy for the first one will be a pretty good idea. Because I have other ideas for other genres. Ash, your nails. I need to cut them. I just really want to just try a different video. Can you settle? Please, can you settle? If you do end up enjoying this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you don't like the video for me, like the video for Ash. Cute little Ash. Look at his little face. So let's try and record my reaction to the nominations because I still haven't seen them yet. I see they still don't have a middle grade option, which kind of hurts. Like, they used to do graphic novels as well. They took that out last year too. It was kind of sad. It was kind of sad. So fiction, historical, mystery and thriller, romance, romantasy, fantasy, science fiction, horror, debut novel, audiobook, young adult fantasy, young adult fiction, non-fiction, memoir, history and biography. Like, it costs nothing to just put a middle grade right there, put a graphic novels right there, maybe even a manga as a separate one. I don't know. So I haven't yet checked this out. Let's click on romantasy. Oh, okay, I have read two so far. Would I call House of Flame and Shadow a romantasy, or even Fairbound a romantasy? I liked Fairbound, didn't like House of Flame and Shadow. I thought romantasy was like predominantly romance with fantasy elements. I thought the romance came first. And for these two, I thought maybe the fantasy was the first element. But maybe I'm wrong. I feel like it's such a tricky category, but maybe that's because I'm very new to it. I'm going to have to ask my friend Becca from Becca and the Books an actual description because I feel like she knows her stuff. Okay, I haven't heard of Fate of the Sun King, haven't heard of A Crown This Cold and Heavy, read Fairbound, read House of Flame and Shadow. I feel like I might have seen Phantasma. Blood of Hercules, never heard of. The Veiled Kingdom, I have heard of. Maybe I own it. Was that in a fairy loot? I don't think it was. The Spellshop, do I own that too? Maybe I do. Maybe I do. I want to have to check. I definitely own the Honey Witch and a Fate Inked Blood because they were fairy loot options. Was a Dark and Drowning Tide also fairy loot? Oh my god, there's so much fairy loot. Quicksilver, okay, haven't heard of. The Games, God's Play, haven't heard of. A Promise of Peridor. Oh, that's a second book. Why? Apprentice of the Villain, I have heard of. That's also a second book, so shit. When the Moon Hatched, I own. A Touch of Chaos, I have heard of, but book number 4? Zodiac Academy, of course. Book number 9, oh my god. I hope none of these win, because I'm not about to read the 9th book in a series. Or am I? To be fair, I have done a first and last, where I read the first book and then the last book and I skip out all the middle. But then again, should I just go straight to this book and not read the first book? I don't. Oh, I've got a parcel.
Hello. Hiya. I'm just training, so he's just telling us what to do, so we can just swear with it.
No bother. Oh, sorry, probably not.
You've got three.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Okay, I don't know if you heard any of that, but the driver was in training. She was lovely. I did used to own the second book of this. I never owned the first one. So Jennifer Alarm and Trombone of Blood and Ash, and then Gold. I literally just bought, is it Guild, the first book by Raven Kennedy? I literally just bought that the other day. So maybe, and I have A Touch of Darkness, I think. Do I still have it? I don't know. Oh man, why do they gotta do sequels? Or if anything gets put into the you know, the final round or anything. I could try and just read the first book in that series instead of the book that was nominated, but is that kind of defeating the object? Is that defeating the point? I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the nominations. Like, I mean, some of them do look good, just based off the covers. Like, I do love covers like this. So I feel like, oh, that's book number 3? But is this actually romantic? I don't know. I actually don't know. So this is going to be like a really random, probably chaotic vlog, as it kind of already is at the minute with the parcel interruption. House of Human Child is probably going to win anyway, even though it doesn't deserve it. I'm just going to quickly check the other ones while I'm here. Might as well. See if there's anything else I've read. I just bought this one, so I want to read it. Okay, none of the other ones. Historical? I definitely don't think I've read any of these. Nope, absolutely not. Mystery and thriller. Mystery and thriller would have been my second choice, honestly. I really want to read that. Hated Middle of the Night. Oh my god, it was shit. I really want to read that. Want to read that. Yeah, there's a few in there that I want to read. So maybe I did pick the romantasy option, and I shouldn't have. I really want to read that. I want to read that. I want to read that. I want to read this. Actually, there's quite a few. I want to read that. There's quite a few romance I actually want to read. I want to read that because I love the first one. I'm not a big fan of Emily Henry. I want to read that because I've seen it around. I want to read that. There's quite a few romance I want to read. So I might do this again in February for romance because, damn. Fantasy. I really want to read that. Okay. Oh, I've read that. Didn't like it all that much. I want to read that. I'm about to read that. I want to read that. There's quite a few in other categories that I really want to read. I've owned that and I want to read it. I feel like we've got pretty good, I want to read that, a good selection of books in some of these. I'm not going to lie. So science fiction looks fine. Horror. Oh, yes, I want to read that. Read that. Want to read that. Read that. Want to read that. Hated that. Okay, again, quite a few that I want to read in horror. Oh my god, there's so many categories. I want to read. Okay, debut. Yep, pretty good. Audiobook. I mean, this is just a mix of things, isn't it? Okay. Young adult fantasy. Oh, I haven't read that one yet, but I just finished the first book. I just got that from Fairy Loot. There's maybe a couple on there that I'd want to read. Ash, why are you back? I read that. Want to read that. Oh, I read that. That's gonna win, surely. Oh, I love that as well. Gwen and Not in Love. Okay, good selection. Nonfiction. Oh, I mean, Disney High. Actually, I wouldn't mind reading that. I'm very intrigued. Nonfiction isn't really my forte, but it should be because I read it all apparently. Oh, Whoopi Goldberg. Oh, The Third Gilmore Girl. I really want to read that one. And then history and biography. Anything in this one? And not really. Oh, Woman in the Valley of the Kings. I literally just came from the Valley of the Kings. Oh my gosh. I literally was there last week. I was at the Valley of the Kings last week. That's so awesome. Okay, maybe there's a couple in there. American Scary. I like that. I like that cover. Oh, maybe I might read that one. Not a bad selection, I think, this year. But then again, I'm probably not the person to ask. I'm no expert. So I'll try and figure out what I'm doing next. I should probably prioritize the books that I own. And yeah, try and get a handle on this whole romantasy mystery because I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so I just finished my phone call with Becca and I did screen record and the video worked, but the audio didn't. But essentially she had a lot to say about romantasy and fantasy romance and kind of the difference between them, or the lack thereof in some instances. So like in my brain, a romantasy is romance first, fantasy second, and a fantasy romance is fantasy first and romance second. So when you're reading a romantasy, if you take the romance out, you don't have a story. So that's kind of the TLDR of the phone call I just had with Becca. And I will link Becca in the description box as well, so do show her all the love. What can I say? I'm useless. I'm very useless. She also recommended that if a sequel ends up getting in the top 10, and because I was thinking, oh, maybe I should just read the sequel without reading any of the previous books, she said you will not enjoy the experience, so don't ruin it for yourself. So if a sequel does end up getting in the top 10, I will read the first book in that series in its place. I know it's technically not the right thing because that book isn't technically the one that's in the awards, but there's no other option. So it's still going to be a few weeks before the top 10 is revealed. At least I believe it's the top 10 that's going to get revealed, and I kind of want to make a head start on the reading list for it and pick a TBR for this video. So I thought the best way of doing that was to create a spreadsheet, write down all of the books and authors and kind of sort it into popularity, because we all know that the Goodreads Choice Awards is just a popularity contest. The most popular authors are always going to win. I mean, if you look at Sarah J Maas, Stephen King, Rick Riordan, they all always win whenever they're nominated. And of course, House of Flame and Shadow came top with over 400,000 votes. There's no competition really. This is definitely going to be in the top 10. Already read it, so I don't have to read it again. But I will also refer you to the spoiler-filled reading vlog I did of the 3 Crescent City books, including this one. So if you fancy a little bit more thoughts, then I have that vlog linked in the description too. And then in second is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker with over 118,000 votes, or at least ratings as a film in this video. So it's probably safe to say that this will also be on the list. I'm most likely going to start this today actually, make a head start, because I do have reading sprints in half an hour on Patreon, and I don't have anything to read until my Wicked books come by Gregory Maguire, because I'm going to be filming a reading vlog for that soon, but I can't start until the books come, so I might as well start this now. And then third at the minute is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This one has over 103,700 votes, and I already own this one, so that's great, because after When the Moon Hatched, I can start this one, because with over 100,000 ratings, it's gotta be. Then it's Quicksilver by Callie Hart with 103,400 votes. I don't own that one, but I might look into getting some of these on the Kindle, so I'm not just like buying books that I might not end up enjoying, unless the sound of it really does rock me to my core and I think, oh, I need to read that, then I might get the physical copy if I can find it cheap, because I do prefer the physical and I like to highlight, but we'll see what happens there. And it might not even end up in the top 10 anyway, so. Then fifth is Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nichole Maehrer, and that has over 56,600 ratings. The first book in that series is Assistant to the Villain, so I will pick up the first book for that and read that in its place. In sixth is Phantasma by Katie Smith with 49,400 ratings on Goodreads. Then it is Gold by Raven Kennedy with 44,900 ratings. And I do already own the first book in the series, so I will read that in its place as well. In eighth is A Touch of Chaos by Scarlett St. Clair. That has 37,800 votes. And the first book is A Touch of Darkness. I thought I owned it, but I don't see it. Oh, okay. I know why I did. I got it mixed up with A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Leigh. I genuinely thought that this was the book. Then ninth is The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee, and that has over 36,000 votes. And then round out the top 10 is The Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst, and that has over 35,000 votes at the time of recording this video. And I have actually been interested in The Spellshop, so I might end up picking that one up just cause anyway. There is still a chance that Fairbound might end up getting in the top 10, even though it comes 16th on the list. At least that would have knocked another one off of the list, so I don't have to read as much, but if I do, that's fine, that's fine. Both The Honey Witch and Dark and Drowned Tide came bottom 2 on the top 20 of those romantasy ones based by ratings alone. So even though I own these ones, I definitely don't think these are going to get in the top 10 then, if they're not that popular on Goodreads, at least compared to the other ones in this list. So I think it's safe to say that I will definitely be reading these 3 books so far in this video, because all of them are pretty much popular on Goodreads, and I need to start, like I need to start now. So if you do end up enjoying this video, please leave it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into actually reading these books. I feel like I've been building this TBR for way too long. I am just filming this section in between reading Zodiac Academy and Phantasma, so if you are keeping up to date with all of my, you know, outfit choices and all of that in this video, then this shouldn't confuse you. I am filming this so out of order at the minute. It's fine. We live, laugh, love on this channel. I wanted to do a quick review of House of Flame and Shadow since I've already read it, so I'm not reading it again for this video. But as a completionist, I do want to talk about this since it is in the Goodreads Choice Awards. And I do still think that my spoiler review in my Crescent City series reading vlog from earlier this year does cover everything, and it is quite funny if you ask me. I do still think that if you want more thoughts on this, then that video is the best place to get them. But I just thought I would run down some brief thoughts. So yeah, I think I mentioned this before that I have already read this and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I originally gave it 3 stars in that Crescent City vlog, but I am going to lower that to a 2. After sitting on it for nearly a year, I definitely don't think I really fully loved it. There were definitely things about the plot that excited me, and still like a few things I liked, but by this point characters in the series were just getting progressively worse to the point where I couldn't stand hardly any of them. The Crescent City series does follow Bryce, and this is like an urban fantasy. It's like set in this place where there are vampires and werewolves and shit like that, and Bryce is the main character. She ends up coming across Hunt, who is her male love interest, and I did like them in the first book, I did, and I wasn't a fan of the second book. The second book put me off the series, and then book 3 I thought was a little bit better than book 2, but now when I'm thinking about it, I gave the second book 2 stars, so I'm going to give this one 2 stars too. Just not really a big fan of the series anymore. I don't know if there will be more after this, but maybe there will be. The ending of this made me so unsatisfied. It's like when you come but there's no orgasm. I was there feeling, is that it?
Is that it? And I thought it saw pretty well, and there is like this good plot of like trying to take down the Asteri, who were like the big bad guys of the series, and there was like that whole plot. So I was like, okay, we have a goal, we have a motivation to go to it. That's why I didn't think this was romantasy, because there is a plot, and I think without the romance, you still have a book, because the romance is so fucking shit. I hate Bryce and Hunt together. In fact, I really can't stand Hunt. I don't like Hunt. I liked him in the first book. I do not like him in this book. There is no Hunt without Bryce. And that is such terrible character development. Without Bryce, Hunt is no one. And when you have a character who can't stand on their own 2 feet, doesn't really have a plot outside of that. I mean, yeah, sure, he just have like little bits here and there. But like, he couldn't go 5 seconds without mentioning Bryce, without wanting to go back to Bryce. All the guys are creeps in this book as well. Like, every single time there is a whiff of a female, they get hard or their balls tighten. Like, why can't males just have a normal conversation with a woman without getting erect? It's so gross. I hate it so much. So I just wish 2 people would have a normal conversation in this, and no movement in their loins. And the romance is tepid. The sex scenes are so repetitive. Like, and they're so boring. Some of it felt like fanfiction. Like, some of these character interactions were just so unnatural. They felt so unnatural, so cringy, and you can't get 2 pages without a main character rimming another character and telling them how amazing they are and how powerful they are, and they're throwing out all this power as well, and none of the magic is described. All it is Bryce throwing light, or people throwing power. Like, she had so much power within her. What is the fucking power? Show us the power. There was no description. There was no world building in this one. It just felt very lazy. The emotions were written so lazily as well. The amount of times we were told, oh, it was pure joy. Oh, it was pure happiness. Oh, it was pure love. I'm like, please stop telling me what it is. Show me it. Make me feel it. Don't tell me, oh, this was emotional. Don't tell me this was sad. Show me how it was sad. Show me how it was emotional. And I did love the ACOTAR series, so this isn't me just bashing on Sarah J Maas. I do love the ACOTAR series, but the Crescent City series, I love the first book, and then the second book and the third book have both disappointed me so much. These were just not the best written in my opinion, and it made me so angry. It made me so angry. I thought I'd gotten over this in the 10 months it's been out. I genuinely thought I did, but talking about it again is bringing up emotions that I thought I'd forgotten about. But I'm so glad I'm including a review for this book in this video, just for my sake, just for completionist sake. So please don't ever make me talk about this again. Oh wait, actually, I'll need to do the worst books of 2024 this month too. Fuck. Anyway, back to original programming, back to the other nominations that I am reading for the very first time. I hope you enjoy. I am currently listening to the audiobook of When the Moon Hatched. Also, if you notice green on my hands, which I guess in this light you can't really tell, but I am currently filming a Wicked video right now. I need to sort this out, so I want to get rid of this. I've had it for years. Not only is this going to be a romantasy video, but I want to like try and sort my house out a little bit as well. Like, I've come back to chaos, and there's just like things I want to do. I want to get a new bookshelf to put in here so I can get rid of all of these kind of like islandy bookcases. Like, I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of this because I don't want it in the upstairs landing. And I also want to get rid of like the graphic novels one as well and just get it all in one bookcase. And it's like a mess right now. Like, everything is such a mess right now. So I'm trying to sort all of that out. And I think listening to audiobooks while I do this is a really good idea because I'll not be, you know, distracted too much. I'm going to be like doing like mindless tasks. And like, yeah, you can probably still see the green on my face. I am trying to get it out so hard. So I need to sort out these little things that are in here, sort them out, and continue listening to this. I actually did read quite a bit of When the Moon Hatched during reading sprints the other night, and I am on chapter 11, page 67. I'm liking it so far. It is feeling a little young adult. I think her name's, I haven't listened to the audiobook just yet, I'm about to start it. I think her name's Rave, like she's our main character. She seems to be some kind of assassin so far. She has targeted some men. She's been in a couple of scuffles so far. And it's feeling a little bit thrown of glass, and I feel like that's probably why I'm getting the young adult vibes from it at the minute. So I'm very excited to continue where I will actually like get more of an understanding. I don't think I mentioned this as well, but this will be a spoiler-free reading vlog, so I won't spoil any of the books. I was debating, like, should I do all spoilers? Should I do spoiler-free? But I do think the best way to go is having no spoilers so that you can watch it, you can decide if you want to read these books, and it's like a lot more accessible to a lot more people who don't want to be spoiled. Hi Ash, hi Tobu. Like, even in here it's like such a mess too. But I have a couple more of these that I'm going to be putting there instead. They're much smaller and they fit better as well, so like you can get past better, and it's just going to look so much nicer. So yeah, hopefully that will look okay. I still think I look a little bit green, even though I've been trying so hard to like scrub all of the face paint off of me. I feel like my hands are okay now, but I think my face is still a little bit green, so don't think I'm sick or anything. I do want to do a quick little romantasy book haul first before I go into my review of When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, because I have finished this and I'm looking forward to talking about it actually. So firstly, I did pick up 2 books that I needed to read for this vlog in case they do end up, well, not these books specifically, but the sequels that are nominated. I did pick up the first book, so I picked up A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair because the 5th book in the series, I think it was, is nominated, and also Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nichole Maehrer because the sequel is again nominated. But also, very exciting as well, I have been on the waitlist for the Fairy Loot Romantasy box for over a year, and I finally got top of the list a couple of weeks ago, and I got sent my first Fairy Loot Romantasy, and I've never heard of it before, and I feel like that's going to be the case with every romantasy book I ever get. I'll have never heard of it. I don't really like follow that side of BookTube or BookTok or anything like that, so it'll all be fresh and brand new to me, and I'm so excited about the prospect of delving into this new genre. Well, not new, but like new to me genre, and hopefully finding some new favourites. This one looks pretty good, A Fire in the Sky by Sophie Jordan. Really like the look of it. It's a little bit short actually, which I kind of like as well. And all it says is dragons are extinct, witches are outcast, but magic lives. Who knows, maybe this might be in the Goodreads Choice Awards next year. But I did finish When the Moon Hatched, and like, I didn't hate it, I didn't dislike it. I'm trying so hard to figure out what I do actually enjoy in the romantasy genre, and also still trying to get a clear vision of what it's about, because I hear people say this is fantasy romance or romantasy or like both, and I'm like, stop confusing me. Like, is it fantasy romance or is it romance fantasy? Is it romantic? I don't know. But after reading this, I do think there is like a little bit of a lack of a plot outside of the romance, honestly, so I do think this is romantasy. Obviously without spoilers or anything, but I do think a big part of this does have to do with the romance between Rave and Con, and without that, I don't think we have that much of a story. So that's good, right? Like, that means it's a good romantasy because it's going off the romantasy genre description. I will say though, this felt pretty safe. This felt like a little bit of a safe book because when I started this, it felt like I was reading a young adult book. And I don't know whether it was because of the writing style. Like, I could see the writing style trying so hard to be poetic and so hard to be quite beautiful and lyrical. But oh my god, there were like so many metaphors crammed in and so many words used that I just don't think really emphasize what the author was actually trying to say. I think it was just like a cool sounding word, so oh, let's do it. So many repeated words as well. So much repetition when it comes to that was starting to annoy me. Like masticate. Masticate was used so much, I was going to take a shot for every single time it was used. And also, like, when men were referred to, they were referred to as the males and stuff, which honestly I don't mind every now and then, but it was done so much. Also, like, entrance in terms of like the visage, the entrance was used so many times. Oh my god, I couldn't. But anyway, sorry, back to like the whole like way that this kind of felt young adult to begin with. I feel like a lot of it is mainly because the main character is just almost a copy and paste of, I guess, like Throne of Glass or like a Sarah J Maas book, where we have this good assassin, because we can't just have assassins who are bad. Like, they have to be a good assassin where they, you know, execute bad people. It felt very been there, done that before. But not even just that, but a lot of the dialogue and the comebacks that the main character Rave has. Say she's in like this really tense and dramatic moment, and she'll give a comeback to somebody who is threatening her life, and it just comes across as a little bit immature for the moment. Like, it feels like something a teenager would say. So I was kind of struggling to nail down the tone of this. I didn't know if this was supposed to be an adult book, and well, it's definitely an adult book considering the spicy sex scenes that come up later. But like, well, maybe one major sex scene. There was one before that was like a little bit of a tease. But anyway, yeah, it definitely not young adult, definitely not. But it gave those vibes because I wasn't sure about the tone. I mean, the main character is described as sassy, but like sassy must mean something totally different to other people, because I'm like, sassy? Those comebacks were not really that great. I mean, I was still rooting for her. Oh my god, don't get me wrong, I was rooting for her. But I just couldn't nail down the tone in the first part of this. And also, the first like 90 to 100 pages of this book is quite different to what comes after it. And there's quite a few monumental moments that happen in those first 100 pages that don't really get brought up by the end of it. Like, the first 100 pages feel so different to the last 100 pages that the first 100 pages just didn't really feel like they mattered all that much. And anyway, I feel like the author was asking way too much emotion from us in those first 100 pages too. Some dramatic things happened, some things that we were supposed to care about, but I feel like if that had happened in the sequel, like if we kept that for the very first start of the sequel, I feel like that could have been a great sequel, right? But I feel like it was just too early for me to care. it was too early for me to really get a sense of why I should care about these characters, why I should be on their side. But yeah, we were kind of like thrust into that, and I just wasn't really the biggest fan of that. I don't mind being thrust into a plot because that can be quite exciting, but when it comes to emotion, when it comes to attachment with characters, I need a little bit more time. I can't just be thrown in there and be expected to care about what's going on. I don't. And I couldn't really connect with the main character the entire time because we were constantly told, oh, this character is hurting, the people she cares about, they suffer, and all this, that, and the other. But I'm not really like saying any of that. I'm just like being told that. We don't really get to know her. And I think even by the time we finish this book, I still don't think we get to know her that much. So I don't know what to think of her. I don't know how I should feel connected to her when I don't know her. And there are some things that happen in the plot by the end of it, like maybe some twists and stuff that, again, I don't want to spoil, but if you've read this, you'll know. And that still doesn't help with my case. It doesn't help at all, and I don't even know how to feel about what happens by that point either. I'm still a little bit conflicted. I'm also not really sure if I love the male main character as well, like the love interest. I just feel like he doesn't really have much going for himself outside of the love interest either. I'm not a big fan of like male love interest or even like female love interest in case there is a male main character, where I just don't like when any love interest just loses all individuality when they get into like this romance kind of thing with the main character. There is no individuality or personality with Khan by the end of this either. So I was like, how am I supposed to connect these characters when I can't say a sliver of their personality for the majority of it? Like, I don't know who they are as people, because now they're so like intricately linked, and now whenever they mention something, it's like about one another. Like, I feel like maybe we could have spent a little bit more time building characters beforehand so that I could feel a little something for them and then kind of know who they are before they become a unit. And this isn't all negative. Like, there are certain instances in the plot, especially in the first part of this book, where I was enjoying it. Like, I mean, I say enjoying it, like, it was entertaining, you know? Like, I wasn't like hating my life, and I didn't want to either. Like, please don't think I'm just going to read these books so that I can rip into them. Absolutely not. There were great chapter endings, and, you know, the chapter's quite short and they are quite fast to read, so like that's pretty good. But say for instance we'll have a chapter end and like, oh, I tried to catch one monster but I snagged two kind of thing, dun dun dun. And there were some like really interesting, intriguing things when it came to what Reeve was doing, and I was really liking that. But I think, yeah, things started to fall apart a little bit by the end of the book. That I was like, okay, we are definitely prioritizing way more over actually trying to build this world and make it cohesive, because I love the idea of the dragon moons, but I don't think there was like enough in terms of like the dragons themselves or how that was supposed to inform our characters and like what they were getting up to. And with this being romantasy, again, I don't mind if it's the romance that is supposed to be the forefront, but I feel like the author was definitely trying to make the plot a little bit more substantial, to make the world building a little bit more substantial. Like, I could kind of see through it. That narrative choice was a little bit transparent. That could see the effort put into it, and it didn't quite stick the landing. And I feel dumb for thinking this as well, but like going back to characters, but I genuinely thought that maybe Reeve was like a lesbian or bi or something, because yeah, I feel like the first part of this book, whenever she would talk about like another female, which of course I get it, like love can be platonic, like you can love your friend so much as well, but I feel like there wasn't a clear indication to begin with. And this could just be my dumbass reading this, or maybe my wishful thinking, because I would have fucking loved this if it had been sapphic, honestly. But yeah, like say she's talking about one of her female friends and she's saying things like, I can't wait to drink in the clouds with her, or when she's saying like, I love you, specifically to a female friend as well, I was like, I'm kind of rooting for this. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't sapphic, but again, that's probably just like my expectations and my dumbass not like maybe reading it properly in the first like 90 to 100 pages. So I'm not going to use that against this book at all. Like, that's all on me. What else do I like about this book? I mean, I kind of do like chapter 78, which is a very, very hot scene. There are some parts of it that I don't like especially certain words being used. And also, I really hate the nickname Moonbeam. I don't know why, but it just makes me think of like a father and daughter relationship, not like a lover's relationship, like Moonbeam. Moonbeam? I don't know about that. Oh my god. But you know what? I was blushing a little bit with the sex scene. And I feel like that's probably one of the things that I will probably focus on when I'm reading these romantasy books, like if they deliver on that front. Because like, I don't think, say for instance, Sarah J Maas, I haven't been satisfied with any of her sex scenes for a very long time. I feel like Akamath was like really, really good. And then I think after that kind of just like dipped. Like, I don't think any of the Crescent City sex scenes have done anything for me, honestly. So I will give Sarah A. Parker credit there, because I don't mind this sex scene, which is saying a lot. But then the characters open their fucking mouths, and sometimes that just, oh, for instance, and again, like, I don't think this is a spoiler, this is just what someone says, but when Khan says, I'm not your secret, I'm your truth. Oh my god, that's so cringy. Like, come on. Like, I hated that. I was like, please, can everyone just like shut their mouths? But then even raves in a dialogue as well, or even like the way the narrator describes what's happening. Sometimes I didn't like it, but other times I really did. I liked how there's like a little bit more focus on the male anatomy part of this, which is something I think Sarah J Maas has been lacking quite a bit recently too. But I don't mind all of that. But there are certain things that were a little bit overused that I wasn't a big fan of. So I'm not a big fan of making the visage like sentient, or like the overuse of like say a slick fluttering core, or core pulsing, or throbbing entrance, or around my entrance. Like core and entrance are used so much right now, and I'm just imagining, I don't know, like with the pulsing and pulsating, and I don't know, it just doesn't bring about a more attractive kind of visual in my head. It's starting to sound a little bit like a horror movie at that point. Like, is this visage gonna, like, eat you? Does it have teeth? Like, what's going on there? Yeah, literally, my core clamps down. Why is it clamping down for? And why using the word core again? Like, the word core is used like 5 or 6 times in the space of only a few paragraphs. But everything other than that, I will say it was pretty hot, okay? But if you want to be a writer, writing these kind of sex scenes in this kind of book, like, don't beat around the bush. Like, literally don't beat around the bush. Use normal language. Maybe this is, again, just a preference, but I can tell when an author is purposefully avoiding certain words just to have a variety of different words, but then sticking to that one word, freaking core in entrance. Just say how you say. Like, how many of us can say, as we're having sex, that we're going through a rotation of synonyms when it comes to our private parts? How many of us actually do that? Literally no one. Be honest, no one. You don't need to be lyrical. You don't need to say every other word under the sun. Just say what you mean. Ugh, and I hate the word slit as well. I hate that word. I'm sorry, I hate that word. I'm just gonna read this. Look, if I have to suffer this line, so do you. His fingers skim my stretched expanse, feathering around my flushed, swollen slit. Look, I know I'm a gay man. I mean, it might come as a surprise if you've never come across my channel before. But like, I'm not the kind of person who is like repulsed by the female anatomy. I'm really not. I just hate that word slit. It just sounds like a wound. It sounds like it needs to be covered up with a bandage. There we go again, my throbbing entrance. His thick manhood. Yeah, manhood was also used a few times as well. So, But again, I feel like maybe this was quite safe. This was probably like a safe romantasy. And I'm speaking as if I know the genre inside and out. I really don't. But it just felt a little bit safe to me. And hopefully, as I'm reading more romantasy books for this video, I can get a sense of what is a safe romantasy and what romantasy takes risks. And I would love to see a romantasy that takes risks. Just what I'm looking for as I navigate this new to me genre. So yeah, I'm going to give it 2.5 stars. I feel like 2.5 is like the middle point. And that isn't a terrible rating at all. It's like a pretty decent rating. It's like kind of average. It's like halfway there, halfway not. So I guess that's a pretty good start.
Looking through the Goodreads Awards top 10. Wait, have the top 10 been released? Have the top 10 been released? Oh my god, it has. Oh my god. Okay, I need to have a look at the romantasy one. I need to have a look at the romantasy one because I'm doing the romantasy video, so I need to know what the top 10 is, because I've only read one, and I'm about to read A Fate Inked in Blood next. I'm about to read this one because it was one of the popular ones in terms of like votes, like actually like how many people have rated this book on Goodreads. Reading this one next, and I don't even know if it's in the top 10. I need to say it, okay? Because I didn't know if I would need to change this bloody TBR. Okay, romantasy, let's have a look. Okay, thank fuck. When the Moon Hatched is still on there. Thank fuck. And A Fate Inked to Blood. I'm just about to read that one. So thank fuck that's on there too. I've already read House of Flame and Shadow. Oh, I bought the first book of this. Thank God as well. Because I need to read the first book of this. And the same with Assistant to the Villain. So I've got the first book of that. My prediction, my top 10, is correct essentially. Well, kind of. Let me just double check this little thing I made. So yeah, House of Flame and Shadow, When the Moon Hatched, Fate Inked to Blood, Quicksilver. Quicksilver's on there. Yep. Quicksilver's on there. Apprentice to the Villain is on there. Yep. Phantasma. Yep. Phantasma's on there. Gold. Gold is not on there. But to be fair, it's more like closer around about this because I did it in terms of like how many people have voted in ratings. So Gold, Raven Kennedy isn't on there, which is fine. Although actually, no, it's not fine because I actually do own the first book anyway. So that could have been good if I had that. A Touch of Chaos. Yep, that's on there. The Veiled Kingdom. Is that on there as well? No. The Spellshop is. Zodiac Academy is. Which means I'm going to have to get the first book, The Awakening. Fuck. Oh, the Jennifer L. Almond Trout. That was 13th. That was 13th on there, and that has turned out to be in the top 10, which means I need to get the first book of Shadow and the Ember, which I'll just get on Kindle. I'll see if it's on Kindle Unlimited or something. I was majorly correct. It was just Gold, The Veil Kingdom, and A Crown That's Cold and Heavy that didn't. But I was going to read the top 6 by the time I got to number 7 anyway. So I've read the top 2. I'm about reading number 3. And yeah, well, I'm glad I know this now, because if A Fate into Blood hadn't been on there and I went to Edinburgh tomorrow with it, then I would have been a little bit sad. I want to say horror. Don't tell me freaking Murder Road or Riley Sager's in here. Oh, no, please don't vote for that, please. If Murder Road wins, I'm deleting my channel. I'm not even kidding, I'll delete it. What about Mystery and Thriller? Will that still have the Riley Sager one on? Oh, he was a Mystery and Thriller, right? The Riley Sager one, and it's not there? It didn't make the top 10?
Can someone tell me why it is the arse crack of dawn right now? Well, I can tell you why. I'm off to Edinburgh to meet someone. We're gonna go for coffee and browse some bookstores, and I'm really, really hoping he's gay. Because not only am I reading about romantasy, but I also want romantasy for myself. Anyway, I'm about to take A Fate into Blood by Danielle Jensen with me. I'll read this on the train there and back. I don't really know what this is about just yet. I think it's to do with gods. And I recently read To Cage a God, and I wasn't the biggest fan. I ended up DNFing it, and so I'm really hoping it's like nothing like that. I think I did read the first chapter of this back in March for a video, and I think I remember kind of liking the first chapter, but we'll just start from the beginning again and see if I end up enjoying. Really excited for this trip to Edinburgh though. I am going first class because it was only £20 more. So I was like, why not? Why not? Let's live our bougie lives. My Uber is on its way and I almost left in my slippers. Let me just pause the Wicked soundtrack while I give you my thoughts and feelings on A Fate into Blood by Danielle Jensen. I didn't realise that this author was an author that I have read from before, and I was a little bit screwed. I was a little bit screwed because I read Dark Shores back in 2019 or 2020 or something like that, and I did not like that book that much. I think I gave it 3 stars initially, but I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw it on BookTube, I didn't really want to be too critical of things. I held myself back a little bit, especially with books that I thought, oh, I probably won't actually ever think good thoughts of this book, but I don't want to seem too mean, so I'll give it like 3 stars. So yeah, I think in the early days, unless it was like really, really terrible, I gave a book like 3 stars if it was like one of my least favorites because I didn't want to be mean. Now I'm a bitch, so I can say anything I want. However, I might have scared you a little bit if you're a fan of this book by opening with that. I actually really enjoyed this. I like really enjoyed it. And I'm so confused. What the fuck does romantasy mean? Because there was so much plot in this. I genuinely thought there was quite a lot of action going on. In this one, I don't even know if I told you about what this is about, but we follow Freya. And she is in this like very loveless relationship at the very start with, I've already forgot his name because like, oh, I don't want to give you any spoilers. She's in a very loveless relationship and marriage with Vragi. I'm going to be terrible with pronunciations, especially for like the Norse gods and things like that, but I think it's Vrogi. And oh, he's a oh, sorry, I probably shouldn't say that word. We don't like him. We do not like him. So I was really rooting for Freya from the off. Like, I wanted her out of this relationship. From the off, Freya felt like a character who had so much drive, and she had these grand goals in her mind. Goals that I feel like, because she is a woman in this world, are kind of like not accessible to her as much as it would be for her fellow man. So I really was rooting for her to begin with, and I genuinely thought she was like quite a great and strong main character. So many things that she did very early on that really shook me and surprised me. Like, she, again, no spoilers, but like she literally puts her, like the health of her hands in danger in order to you know, like stick up for someone else and stop something from happening. And I think with that happening, I think like only 4 or 5 chapters in, I knew pretty early on that she would be someone that I would really, really like and care for. Also, I will change where I actually do my book reviews. It's just easier for me because my computer's right there, got all my notes written up. So I will shake it up a little bit as we go on, I promise. So yeah, there is this prophecy that is kind of dictating Freya's life. She actually has a lot more power than a lot of people realize. And I absolutely adore the theme of free will versus your destiny, or fate, I guess. Like, what is actually fated? Can you control your destiny? Can you make your life your own, especially when you have so many things that are keeping you from, you know, achieving your dream? Can you literally take your destiny in your own hands and run with it? And I genuinely feel like Freya was a great embodiment of that. And you know, this had plot to boot, in my opinion. This had so much plot. One of the things I was worried about Romantasy was that they wouldn't really have plot because it would be the romance that would drive it. Because I don't think the romance led this book at all. I genuinely thought it was like the other way around. When we have the main relationship, and I was kind of rooting for it, actually, I'm not gonna lie. We start off with sort of like enemies to allies to lovers kind of thing. There's almost like a partnership going on, and I really do feel like there was a baseline of respect that started to blossom between them, especially considering we had like such a rocky beginning. It felt like Freya was probably going to be on her own for the majority of this, but no, with the romance, to me, it felt secondary. I feel like you could have taken the romance out and I still would have enjoyed. To me, this was just a fantasy. I feel like that's just how I should be moving forward with these books, is seeing them as fantasies, and you know, just saying romantasy is just maybe a marketing tactic rather than actually what this is. I haven't read a whole lot of like I can't say the word. I haven't read a whole lot of mythological stories, and Norse in particular. I think the closest I've come is playing God of War. God of War and God of War Ragnarok, which I love. That's probably like the closest I've come to sort of like Norse mythology. So I don't really have too much to compare it to in terms of like how good it is at depicting Norse mythology and the way that it weaves it into the narrative. I'm not the person to come to for the fact checking with that, but there was a couple of exciting action sequences, battles, moments when the main character would realize her true power, her true worth, that I thought were very exciting to read. Would I say the writing blew me away, like on a technical level? Probably not. But honestly, I was just reading this for enjoyment, and I started it on the train to Edinburgh a couple of days ago now, and I was kind of flying through, and then read some more of it when I was on my train home, and then I finished it off when I got home, and it was a really fun time. Like, I was really enjoying myself, and I think once I like stop overthinking things and just like take all of that out of my head and just enjoy myself, I can really enjoy a book, and that's exactly why I did. I really enjoyed this book, so I'm gonna give it like a 4.5. I don't think it's gonna be a 5-star. I don't know what it would take for me to give a romantasy book a 5-star, but it's definitely my favorite one so far on this vlog, and I have only read When the Moon Hatched so far, and I did read House of Flame and Shadow earlier this year, and that is definitely not one of my favorites. But yeah, book number 3, oh, third time's the charm. And if you really want to say like how busy I am, like trying to get this video done as well as other things, I'm currently filming a week of my life video right now. This is pretty much my current TBR. Most of it is all the books that I need to read for this video, and I'm trying to read like a book a day. That's what I'm trying to do, and I can do it. I can do it. So next I will try and do Assistant to the Villain. I think that'd be fun. Oh, and also when I went to Edinburgh, I did buy The Spellshop by Beth Durst. I feel like out of all of the books I'm reading for this challenge, this is the one that I think I'm going to like the most, and I don't want to jinx it. I do not want to jinx it, but I am going to be reading, I think, like 3 or 4 of them on Kindle, like Kindle Unlimited. But I do prefer to read a physical copy of a book, and this one looks like the one that I will most likely enjoy and keep. I have seen it on quite a few booktube channels so far, and yeah, it just looks right up my street. So I did buy this in Edinburgh, and I bought a few books in Edinburgh, I'm not going to lie. But this was the only book that I bought relevant to this video. So I'm going to try Assistant to the Villain next. Obviously, I know the sequel is the one that was nominated for the Goodreads Choice Award. I haven't read this one yet, so I can't read that one. I mean, I could try and squeeze it in and read both, but I'm a busy guy. Let me off. Who knows, maybe next year I'll be more prepared and I'll have read more series, so that when book number 28 in a series is announced as nominated, I can read it. I've spent all day reading Assistant to the Villain by Nichole Maehrer, I think. And what the fuck? That prologue was atrocious. I'm sorry, that prologue was so bad. It almost put me off. I would have enjoyed this book more, I think, if we had cut out that prologue. Probably one of the worst introductions I've ever read for like 2 characters. getting to know one another. So unrealistic. Okay, so this is about Evie, and she ends up coming across the villain. And is he a villain? Anyone who has read this, tell me how he's a villain. I'll give you 5 seconds, quick, right down below. Is he a villain? So yeah, she meets the villain. He's referred to mostly as the villain. He does have a name. But yeah, they meet in the prologue chapter. She runs into him. She's a bumbling idiot. She's an absolute mess. She keeps putting her foot in it. And she does it for the entire book as well. Oh my god, I've never known somebody so immature and so stupid. The things that she comes out, it's not even funny. Literally, the amount of times that she starts to talk about him and then she turns around and he's there. Or the amount of times she just says what she's thinking. And we're supposed to find that funny? That's like 90s American US TV show humor. And I try to imagine this as, you know, like Gallivant. Have you ever seen Gallivant? I used to love Gallivant. Try to imagine this because, yeah, it's still fantasy. You do have fantastical elements. We have an ogre who likes to read. We have pixies. There's like a little bit of magic. There's like a king and a kingdom and all that and the other. Not that I thought it was explored very well. But we have all of that. And so I was trying to imagine it as Gallivant. I was like, okay, this is the kind of humour we're going for. I'm trying to say that. It was still the most like cringiest of things. Trying as well to get my head into these characters. Not physically, but like mentally in the heads of these characters. And I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. Essentially, I didn't want to do it. I didn't like Evie, and I didn't like the villain. I didn't like either of them. Evie was too immature. She felt like a middle grade main character. Not even a young adult main character. She felt like a middle grade main character. But that was her entire personality, was just falling over or being a ditz or putting her foot in it and just making things worse for herself. Like, that's just her entire personality. And honestly, like, one of the first things she says to the villain is, oh, you look like you're cut from marble. You shouldn't look like that. You're too pretty to be like a killer. The first thing she says to him is all that cringy shit. I kind of knew from that moment, from that first chapter. I mean, one, I didn't think it was written very well. And then, yeah, two, the fact that this entire like premise kind of kicks off from just the fact that she's just like, oh, I also need a job. And he's like, okay, work for me. You're my assistant now. What the fuck? It just happens way too conveniently, way too fast. I feel like the things that came out of their mouths was not believable whatsoever. Nobody would speak like that shortly. Nobody would say the things that they were saying. Way too early, especially Evie. As I said, I like the novel more than like the early parts of it. I will say like some things like started to take off because I thought, oh my god, this is like so boring as well. Like not only am I finding the romance very cringy, like the main characters I'm not liking, but also like I found the plot so slow. Whereas like say Fading to Blood, I felt like that kept my attention the entire. This couldn't keep my attention. We had some of the most random storylines as well. We have a random bomb threat at one point, but to be fair, there was a twist involved in that I didn't expect. And that's why I'm giving like a 0.5 rating to this. Because like there were some bits about the story that I kind of was taken by surprise with. But I was so hoping for a little bit more of chemistry between the main character and the villain. But they were just too awkward, too cringy for me to even feel any kind of romance there. It felt weird. It felt like I shouldn't have been looking at them. And just how is he a villain? He's not a villain. He's genuinely not a villain. He doesn't even do anything villainous, really. We'll randomly get a random corpse that we have no idea how it even happened. We just know that he killed him, okay? But like, he does so many good things. And he's so intuitive. He's so in tune with Evie's emotions. So say for instance, again, I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible. For instance, Evie mentions that, you know, she used to work for someone. She doesn't even say anything in a different way. There is no inflection in her voice to give anything away. But the villain's just like, why did you leave? What did he do to you? I'm just like, he's way too intuitive. He's way too sensitive to be a villain. And yeah, like, what makes him a villain? Oh my god, he tortures somebody who hurt a duck. He has a dimple. Oh my god, the horror. The absolute horror. I was actively rooting against this romance. I was like, don't want it. And even then, even though he doesn't really do anything that we see that paints him a villain, we have this, like, kind of a storyline where he doesn't seem all that bad. And even Evie says at one point, oh, you're not all that bad, are you? I'm like, when was he ever bad? When was he ever bad in this book? When have we ever seen him be bad? We haven't. How about we get in a story where the character, the main character, is saying for the first time, oh, you're not all that bad, are you? I mean, she's been like literally eyeing him up since page 1, calling him a marble statue and he shouldn't be that pretty, this, that, and the other. I'm just like, the only thing that is remotely a connection between them is the fact that she fancies the pants off him, which honestly, fair play. There are many people who I'm attracted to, sure. And if I was around them, sure, I'd be like, oh, they're very attractive. But that wouldn't be the only thing I'd bloody think about. I would have other things to talk about. I would not make an absolute fool of myself, stumbling over my own feet, trying to make that my personality. But then again, I am the one who's single here, so maybe Evie has a point. I would just love a romance where the villain is actually a bad person. Is Butcher and Blackbird that one? Because I think that's a serial killer romance, I think. But like every single time we get a love interest who's like, oh, they're the bad guy, they're the villain. Turns out they're actually not. They probably hurt and kill bad people. Is what they do. So at a stretch, morally grey. I don't want morally grey though. I want a villain. I want a genuine, actual villain. So I feel lied to. I feel like someone's just literally grabbed me by the hair, thrown me to the ground, punched me in the face, and then spat on me for good measure with this book. 1.5 stars. And again, that 0.5 was for a little bit of a twist that I didn't really see coming. So I thought, okay, fair play to you. And this isn't even the book that's nominated for the Goodreads Choice Awards. It's the sequel, which I will not be reading. I do not want to read it. I'm DNFing the sequel already, so that is like DNF'd, okay? So that's not happening. So again, I'm not exactly reading all of the Goodreads Choice, whatever. I just can't take any more of Evie and the villain, Tristan, I think his name was. Well, to be fair, I feel like that was like the first worst book of this video. Well, actually, other than House of Flame and Shadow, but I didn't read it in this video. I'm 4 books in, I've got 6 more to go. Huh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it closes today? Shit. Should I do a quick voting session now then, before, like, while I'm catching up? Oh, I didn't realize it closed today. I haven't read everything, though. Oh, Final Round ends in, 13 hours, but I'll forget tomorrow. And to be honest, I don't know if I've read anything in this one. I haven't read any of them, so would it be bad if I voted for something? I want to read this very, very much. I own it, but I feel like it probably is terrible for me to vote for things I haven't read. I haven't read any of them. Haven't read any of them. Haven't read any of them. Okay, Romantasy. What am I voting for? I've only read this one. Didn't like it. This one I read and I did like it. I read it on Wednesday. Wednesday when I went to Edinburgh. So spoiler alert, this is one I've read and I did like, A Fading to Blood. And I'm liking the Spellshop so far. And I've read When the Moon Hatched. It was okay. And I didn't like, what was it? Assistant to the Villain. I can't read the sequel because I hadn't read the first one yet. So I read it. So I wouldn't vote for that. Oh God, but I feel like it would be bad for me to vote because I haven't finished this category. So should I just vote for the one that I enjoyed the most? Okay, while I wait for your answers, I'll check fantasy. The only one I've read is The Familiar and I didn't like it. The science fiction, haven't read a single fucking one. And I did buy Orbital the other day, though. I did buy Orbital. Okay, horror. Okay, I did read. Oh, I like The Eyes of the Best Part. I'll probably vote for that. I will definitely not be voting for Murder Road. I like We Used to Live Here, but I think I prefer The Eyes of the Best Part. So I want to vote for The Eyes of the Best Part. Hey, I could finally actually vote for one. Debut novel. I just don't want Murder Road to win. I will vote for anything as long as Murder Road doesn't win. Favorite debut. I'll vote for The Eyes of the Best Part again because I read that one as well, but I like this one more, I think. Audiobook. I haven't read a single one. Young adult fantasy. I only read the first one. I haven't read this one, so I can't say. Young adult fiction. Hot Summer Volume 5. Obviously. It ain't even a contest. But I did love Gwen and Not in Love. Haven't read any of them. So in terms of romantasy, I just want to vote for something. I will vote for... It's either one of these two. It's one of these two. I haven't finished. I want to vote for a Fading to Blood. I haven't finished the Spellshop yet, so it's not quite fair. But I just know that House of Flame and Shadow is going to win anyway. It's going to win anyway. Because it's Sarah J. Maas and it's a popularity contest.
Either way, so we're just here for a good time. So hopefully these work, and remember, if one doesn't work, you do not have to do it. You just pick whatever you want to pick. So let's start with the Old Tales bookstore. Quick while stock lasts, get the tome you still need to read by the end of the festivities. And here Julian is removing a lot of stock from the bookstore to make visit. And the prompt is winter or winter elements on the cover. Again, another staple, probably is not going to go anywhere because we got to keep it thematic. and it's just as much we can do with it. And tie it with a scene or a little bit of ice or snow.
I have just come back from training, so I haven't been in the shower just yet. I am waiting for a delivery to come as well, so I don't want to be in the shower when that comes. So I'm a little bit of a stinky witch right now. But in good news, I need to get the Wicked soundtrack out of my goddamn head. In good news, I did finish The Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst, and I actually loved it. I loved it. I thought it was great. In fact, it might be my favourite one so far. And now I'm kicking myself because voting closed yesterday, and I panicked because I wanted to vote for something, and I wanted to vote for anything that's not Sarah J Maas, and I voted for A Fate Inked in Blood because that was my favourite so far. But I think this is topped A Fate Inked in Blood. I think I'll do a ranking at the end of this video of like my favorite to least favorite books, but I think this one is coming at the top at the minute. I think I'm giving it like a 4.5. I might change it to a 5 by the end because I feel like this was exactly what I needed right now. But I would say this is more like cozy fantasy in the same vein as like Legends and Lattes or Bookshops and Bone Dust, rather than romantasy. I don't know what's going on. So this one follows Keela. She is a librarian. She works at this library where there are a lot of spell books and magic that she is keeping for the kingdom. She essentially protects the spell books for the elite of the city. There's also Kaz, who is a sentient spider plant, and I'm trying to like visualize it. I can't really, because I actually haven't even looked it up. Like, what does one of those look like? Okay, I can totally picture Kaz now. Absolutely. And yeah, Kaz can talk, and it's actually pretty funny. Like, a few of the funny things in this book come from Kaz. I feel like the banter between people and the dialogue in this is what I missed in Assistant to the Villain. Assistant to the Villain had some of the cringiest and worst dialogue I've ever read, whereas this one kind of fixes it. It makes up for it. So I kind of read it in perfect order because I feel like this has rectified the wrongs of Assistant to the Villain, in my opinion. So anyway, yeah, this library goes up in flames because there is a revolution. So Keela and Kaz, they go to where Keela grew up, this far off island where she hasn't stepped foot in for years, and she no longer has her parents, so she is like kind of navigating this for the first time on her own there. And she comes across the old cottage that they used to live in, and I don't know if it's quite believable that it would kind of still be pretty functional after all that time. And she does end up finding like a recipe book there, and so she sets up shop there. She wants to create a jam shop, but that is a cover for an actual like spell shop. So she wants to, you know, do things that will help the island, because the island has also been cut off from like magic, and so the island has been suffering for a while. And I love that. Like, that's such a good story. It probably isn't the most exciting of stories or anything, but it does have a point, and I was really enjoying seeing like how these relationships would develop between the characters. There were a couple of characters who we met, and I'll get to the romance in a second. Yeah, there was somebody who I can't remember their name, but one of them becomes like a business partner for Keela. I love their interaction to begin with, because Keela just comes up to them and says, oh, you know, I want to start selling charms, like, will you help? And like, will you help, you know, provide this and the sugar and this, that and the other? And she's like, but you don't even know if I'm even a good business partner, and I'll take 50%. And then Keela's like, okay. And then they're like, no, like, don't just accept that. That's terrible business. It's so good. Like, I love the secondary characters that build it. I also really like the young boy Tobin as well. Like, I thought Tobin and Kaz had like really good banter. I love their first meeting. This village, this island felt so real. Like, I could really connect with the secondary characters as well as the main characters. I will say though that Keela, well, to begin with, she does things and says things that feel maybe a little bit unfair, and she's like quite standoffish to begin with, especially to the main love interest, Lauren. I don't know pronunciations. Again, I didn't listen to the audiobook for this one. I just read it physically, and thank God, because I bought the book literally last week, and thank God I liked it, so I'm actually keeping it. But I'll just call him Lauren. And Lauren, he just kind of does things without, you know, being told to do them, and he does things out of the goodness of his heart, really. Like, he's so nice, he's so cute. And so when they first meet, they do butt heads a little bit, and I feel like maybe that was a little bit forced from the author to try and get us to feel some tension. And when I don't really think I felt much tension to begin with, I was rooting for it, because I really love the fact that Keela was very protective of herself and the way that things should be. And so we had to like break down her character a little bit to look under the surface, because, you know, there's some things going on under there. She really does miss her parents, and I'm telling you, I get it. I get it, she misses her parents. There was a lot of repetition there in terms of like grief, which I feel is like so mean for me to say, but oh my god, she would start to do like a little bit of an inner monologue, or she would talk about her parents. I'd be like, okay, I get it. So it would make sense to me that she acts at the very start of this book. So like, I didn't find her unlikable at all, unlike, you know, assistant to the villain. I found this to be quite great in terms of like character arcs and character progression, and honestly just Lauren, just the way that he can like fix a chimney, or he can build that kind of shop window thing, and he can just do it. He just gets on with it. Oh my gosh, I've never been so moist. Never been so moist. I just love a handyman. I've got a few things that he can work on in this house and on my body that I will be more than happy to pay any amount for him to do. So I did end up starting to feel like a little bit of yearning. I was like rooting for the relationship to happen. And yeah, I was just really sucked in by the plot. I'm really enjoying the books that have a little bit more meat to the plot. So like Fading to Blood, I thought had quite a lot of meat to the plot. This one has a lot of meat, especially since now Keela wants to bring like magic to this island. And I'm like, okay, I can't wait to see you do that. I am rooting for you. I want you to do this. And being able to bring in other characters on this island to kind of be part of that, and just being able to meet different people every now and then. Some of them aren't the friendliest, but that's fine, because it just made this whole village, this island, feel so real and so three-dimensional. And it just made me feel so good inside. Like, I felt so warm. It was just what I needed to like de-ice my heart a little bit, because sometimes I think I'm a little bit too harsh on romance because I don't have that for myself. And honestly, that's fair of me. Why should other people be happy and I'm not? It's honestly rude. Do these characters think of me? Do these authors who are writing these epic romances think of me when they're doing it? It just feels like they're rubbing it in at this point. But no, I could actually feel something. My cold, frozen, dead heart could feel something. And for Lauren, so could my loins. Yeah, 5 books down, because I am still including House of Flame and Shadow. 5 books down, 5 to go. I'm really enjoying these romantasy books that are on this romantasy top 10 list. I am about to make a late night tea because I am this close to DNFing Zodiac Academy. This close! This close!
You need some help there, bud? I mean, I can't figure out how to cut the grass, and I'm a little worried that it's something super simple, but I haven't.
Oh, good morning, everyone. A couple of things. 1, made myself a lovely homemade cappuccino. 2, I've DNF'd Zodiac Academy. I'm sorry, I can't do it. That book is The Devil Among Us. I really started to hate myself while I was reading that, and that ain't good. So I've done what I thought was best for me. I made it to 70% in, which I feel like it was probably, like 200, 250 pages? So I made a good effort. I feel like I made such a good effort. This book is about, I was about to say a pair of twins. One set of twins. Darcy and Tori. And oh my gosh, the way that they find everything out is so amazing. Everything they've ever wanted is theirs now. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like they were living such a hard life beforehand. But now they don't have to worry about a single thing. Everything is like thrust upon them. They're thrust on the reader as well. I'm telling you, I think it was chapter 2 or 3 when we found out absolutely everything we needed to know. All of that world building was crammed into one chapter. Everything was told to us, and oh my gosh, I was hating it. There is literally a guy called Professor Orion, who comes to their apartment and he just tells them everything. He's like, oh my god, actually there is like this whole other world. You have magic, you're probably going to be the most powerful people ever. Oh yeah, you're fair. There's one thing that might be a spoiler, so I'll not do that. But you know, if If you read Throne of Glass, if you read like anything fucking ever, then you will know exactly what I'm referring to. You know exactly what happens. It's just so convenient. It's so easy how they get told everything about this whole new world, this whole magical world. And the stipulation about, you know, going from rags to riches is to just join this school called the Zodiac Academy. All you have to do is join it and like everything's yours. I'm just not a fan of books that have the laziest storytelling possible. Like literally getting told everything in dialogue from Professor Orion was the most laziest thing you could ever do. And I was about to say, oh, this is something I'd find on Wattpad, but that is a disservice to Wattpad. And I would like to say as well, I love Wattpad so much. I was actually a writer on Wattpad myself. I actually won a Wattie Award in 2018 for my gay Titanic retelling, set in the modern day and on a plane instead of a ship. So like, I'm not putting Wattpad down, because this is worse than anything you could ever find on there, I'm telling you. Okay, maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but everyone's a creep. Apart from the two main characters, everyone is a creep. Professor Orion's a creep. The amount of times there was like no consent, or, you know, consent is taken away from people. People have their control taken away and they're forced to do things. I've just read An Academy of Liars by Alexis Henderson. There was like some kind of parallel there with like persuasion and taking people's control away. I could feel this in this book, but it felt more like a huge kind of like rape culture almost. Like that was what was kind of embedded into the way the story was being told, in the way that the background characters, the secondary characters, and even probably some of the important characters who will probably pop up again, they just feel like they were like contributing to this awful culture in this school. And literally the very first character we kind of meet when we go to like the school, which I haven't said like what chapter 4, like we just go straight there, and then suddenly it's like this whole sorting ceremony, like some kind of Harry Potter ripoff, and they're like, oh, raise your hand if you feel this wind, that means you have wind magic. Raise your hand if you feel this water, you have water, whatever the fuck it was doing. Like some kind of Divergent ripoff as well. The very first character who like really speaks there is someone called Kylie, and it feels like the most millennial Valley Girl thing. She was like, oh my god, yeah, I'm still seeing that guy I was texting, blah 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 blah. The dialogue was so bad. People were talking like this wasn't a fantasy world at all. So like the dialogue and the tone of the story were just not blending for me. And I just hate the fact that the first like magical kind of character we meet in this brand new world is just somebody who's talking like somebody who you would just find at a regular school or some regular middle school in the real world. Like, this was not feeling magical to me, and it was happening way too fast. And before we know it, they're the most powerful, because of course. There are more things that were coming out that I don't want to say because I don't want to spoil it, but I feel like some of this you kind of already know from maybe the summary, or you kind of just like know from the series in general, but they are the most powerful. And they just got there. This is chosen one trope, but when it's rammed down your throat, that it comes out your asshole. There's also like a group of like alluring guys. Like, again, like I feel like this took everything from other fantasy series and like young adult series, because there's like a group of like these alluring guys, and it just felt like the Raven Boys, you know, from the Raven Cycle. It just felt like it was just taking so much. It felt like it was taken from Shadowhunters, from Harry Potter, from Divergent, from the Raven Cycle. There was nothing that was sacred. It's like the two authors went, well, I'll have a little bit of that, I'll have a little bit of that. And I really do feel like I might be done with school stories, because it just doesn't give you anything new. And this story, this book, was essentially just setting up this world. Like nothing was happening. And it was just like introducing us to things, introducing us to different like magical races and stuff like that. And I was like, it's not doing anything new. It's not doing anything different. Why are we getting a full book with zero plot, zero substance, and just recycled ideas? Like, it was just wasting my time. And don't get me started on Darius. Like, I feel like there were so many characters who I was getting, like, such anger for, that I was like, this isn't worth my blood pressure. My blood pressure is, it's already getting sky high. I mean, you've seen, like, some of the greys in my hair, right? So you probably criticize, like, Gavin, why are you reading books that are obviously not for you? Because you're too old. Well, I'm not that old yet, bitch. Just know, Alpha. Just know. This was essentially just rape culture in a Harry Potter setting. But I'm not criticizing anyone who enjoys it. Like, I can see why people would enjoy it. I just really don't. I'm the absolute opposite. Could not stand the dialogue, the writing style, the recycling of everything. Definitely my least favourite book of this video. More so than Assistant to the Villain. At least Assistant to the Villain didn't like offend me. This one felt like it was trying to offend me. So that was a DNF, 1 star, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It's probably not fair for me to rate it since I DNF'd it. But like, it's the worst. So I definitely would not be... What was it, book 9? Or something that's in the Goodreads Choice Awards? Absolutely not. I am not doing that to myself. Maybe I might do a first and last. Is Zodiac Academy over? Because I might do a first and last for it. Maybe. Oh my god. Should I? Is it over? Is it finished? Or are they doing like 25 books? I don't know. I'm so sorry as well for that negative review. I hate being negative. You might not think this, but I do hate being negative. But I seem to be going from like one book that I really enjoy, like Fate into Blood, and then Assistant to the Villain, and then a Spellshop I loved, and then freaking Zodiac Academy. And I keep wanting to call it Vampire Academy. I haven't read that series yet, but I want to next year because I own all the books. So I'm gonna read them. But now I'm kind of scared because Zodiac Academy like really pissed me off. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Oh my god, I'm so cold. Shorter days feels like the Antarctic. I both love and hate winter, I really do. I have finished Phantasma. I started reading it yesterday during Patreon reading sprints. I finished it this morning while I was in Costa having my morning coffee. Also went to training. That was great, so I'm also in pain. I am in pain right now. I finished and I thought this was a pretty good one, honestly. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give this one 4 stars. There were a couple of things that prevented me from giving it any higher. Like some things that I found annoying. I do think there were parts of this story that kind of fell flat for me. But on the whole, really enjoyed it. Really good story. I was very entertained by it. And I love tournament kind of stories. So this one follows Ophelia. And she and her sister, is it Guinevere or Genevieve? I'm not too sure how to actually pronounce it. I was reading it on Kindle Unlimited. She and her sister have lost their mum only days before, and so they're at risk of losing Grim Manor, which is where they live. And I freaking loved so much of the imagery in this. It felt pretty gothic, a little bit horror as well. There was a little bit of horror mixed in with this story, which I love horror, and I love anything to do with ghosts and apparitions and phantoms and all of that. So I felt like this was such a great recipe for a story, especially since this becomes a bit of a tournament kind of story, because I love tournament stories, and when there is games and you have to kind of succeed at each level or each game in order to win or survive. And that's kind of what this book turns into. There is this place called Phantasma where contestants can enter, but only one can come out alive, essentially. It's almost like a house of horrors. There are different levels. There's 9 levels for the 9 circles of hell, and yeah, each level is something different. And Ophelia signs up to be part of it because she's looking for her sister. Her sister's gone off, and she thinks that she's gone into Phantasma, and she's entered it because if you win, you can essentially ask for anything. So, desperate times call for desperate measures. And firstly, I really did like the bond between Ophelia and Genevieve. I'm just gonna call her Genevieve. Especially at the beginning, I do feel like we lose touch of the sisterly bond and that relationship the longer the book goes on. And as Ophelia has this clear goal of trying to find her, I feel like some of that gets a little bit forgotten about and that bond kind of lessens. But after reading Zodiac Academy, I swear, everything has just tasted like fucking sunshine and rainbow and daisies since then. So I feel like that sisterly dynamic was done so well in this for the most part. I'm trying not to be too nitpicky. I like Ophelia as the main character, but yeah, it did seem like after a certain point she kind of changed character a little bit, and I think in part that has to do with the romance. But before I go on to that, there's actually some really good OCD representation in this. I actually saw myself in Ophelia, and there's this voice in her head that gives her these kind of conundrums, if you don't do this in a certain amount of time you're gonna die, or things like that. And honestly, I had that same voice in my head when I was younger. I had a voice in my head being if those traffic lights turn red before you get there, you're gonna die. Or if you walk on any of the lines on the road, you're gonna die. Things like that were in my head growing up. And so I really do feel like a lot of the OCD representation in this was actually really well done. And one of the very few stories so far that I feel has done really good representation like that. I do like Blackwell. So Blackwell is the male main character. There were things about him I didn't love. There were quite a few sexual innuendos that I was okay, I've had enough of that. It's no secret, I think it's on the summary, he is a phantom, he belongs in Phantasma, that's where the main character meets him, and they decide to strike a deal with one another that he is gonna help her so that she can win. And there's so much to the story there as well. What I really like about Blackwell was that there is just quite a lot under the surface. He's not just a straightforward character. Some of the descriptions of him, and maybe I'm just in heat, but I like a man who asks for help. I do. I love a man who asks for help. Blackwell, I will personally help you in a room in which there are no others, if you so wish. Or y'all can watch, I don't give a shit. And I love his name because it reminds me of the bookshop Blackwell's. And I will allow him to spread my legs like the pages of a book. What can I say? I have a soft spot for phantoms. And another thing I'm not really the biggest fan of, with him and the kind of romance that starts to happen, is I don't really like nicknames all that much, or pet names, or things like that. And he calls her Angel. He calls her Angel. It just makes me want to vom. I'm sorry. I feel like nicknames are okay when you've known that person for a while, a while. Not as quickly as it, turned out. Happened a little bit too fast for me, I'm not gonna lie. Was a little bit steamy, there was some spice there, but some of it was a little bit jarring as well, because you'll have this plot where there are people dying left, right, and centre, and you have this steam happening in between all of that. It was just a little bit jarring. I don't think the transitions were that smooth between somebody getting ripped to shreds and Ophelia Blackwell fucking. I don't think there was enough of a transition there. This isn't a spoiler, I don't think. But yeah, say Ophelia's in this really dangerous situation. And then she's just like, she wondered what it would be like to have that mouth on her skin. And then also, I don't know what the fascination was with the fucking mouth, but like, there's a big scene towards the end as well when Ophelia has like a lot to lose. And she says like the strangest thing at the worst time. Like she says, we both know how much I love your mouth. I'm like, she's one about suck and dick and cock. And she did it at my birthday dinner. Time and place. Oh, and the author as well. Like, this is another pet peeve of mine. Loves to say, oh, they waited with bated breath. If I heard one more person had bated breath, I swear to fuck, everyone should be dead. No one's fucking breathing in this. They all had bated breath. What else? I was very intrigued by some of the, like, secondary kind of storylines, like the stuff with the mother too. And obviously like, the mystery surrounding her death. I was actually very pleasantly surprised by like how that unfolded too. I thought that was really good. Wasn't really the biggest fan of the ending. In fact, the book's shorter than I thought. It ended around about like 91% on the ebook because I was reading on Kindle Unlimited. And the rest of the book is like the first 3 or whatever chapters for the sequel. So I was like, oh my gosh, I finished before I knew it. And that kind of took me by surprise as well. I was like, oh, it's over already, which actually is a good thing as well because I definitely ate it up. I read it pretty quickly, and it is what, like a 400-page book. So yeah, I felt really good about like the way I was reading it. Like it's not the best thing I've ever read, but it was entertaining enough that I kind of wanted to get in the next chapter and keep going. Ophelia, you're breaking my heart. But I do love anything to do with like ghosts, apparitions, spirits. You know, there was quite a lot of that, and the gothic tones, the gothic vibes were very well done, in my opinion. Loved some of the descriptions, especially of like, you know, Phantasma itself and like the mansion, as well as, you know, like Grim Manor and stuff like that. I thought it was really, really good. I enjoyed all of that. I could see it in my head. It's potentially like a little bit of a Tim Burton kind of world in a way. There was some grimness there. I mean, some of it was on the nose. Definitely. Especially with the main characters, you know, surnames being Grimm, 2 M's. That was a little bit on the nose. But other than that, I do think it was a very solid book and I really enjoyed reading it.
Okay, I am about to do my review for A Touch of Darkness, and I haven't even brushed my teeth yet. I haven't had my morning poop yet, but the winners have just been announced, and I need to see if House of Flame and Shadow fucking won. So let's just get this over and done with, because I just know it is going to be the winner. I just know it in my head. But I'm hoping for a miracle. I'm hoping for something different. Oh my god, let's see what the winners are. I'm so excited. I'm so intrigued. Romantic, I fucking knew it. Oh, but at least House of Volume 5 won Young Adult Fiction. Okay, I'm glad about that. Oh, Kelly Bishop won Memoir. I really want to read that one. T.J. Klune won Fantasy. Emily Henry won Romance, not surprised. Stephen King won Horror, not surprised there as well. I want to read The Ministry of Time. Okay, I might try and read some of these winners that I haven't read yet because I'm actually interested in a few of them. But, oh my god, I'm so disappointed. Genuinely so disappointed. 122,000 votes. Apprentice of the Villain came second. Are you kidding me? Are you genuinely fucking kidding me? I'm about to read Am I reading Quicksilver today or tomorrow? I have 2 books left. Both of them on my Kindle. What's the other one I need to read? This one, Born of Blood. Now, okay, that was like second bottom. Oh man, I really enjoyed Phantasma. I really enjoyed the Spellshop. Fading to Blood. Okay, these 3 I really enjoyed, and they only came up to here. They only came up to here. What? Also, I haven't been updating my Goodreads, so I could say like how close the Honey Witch was in order to get in the top 10 and Feybound as well, so I would have had like 1 less book to read. Gosh, the gold one / guild, that would not have been in the top 10 at all. Well, nearly 500,000 votes. Interesting. And yeah, just a huge discrepancy between 1 and 2. I just knew it would be Sarah J. Maas, unfortunately, but that's just the way Goodreads works. So predictable. But honestly, I really did not like the first book. One of the worst books I've read. But I'm happy about this coming bottom of the top 10. Like, so I haven't read this one, and I'm just about to talk about this one. Let's just say I'm so happy it's bottom of this. I know I would still put Zodiac Academy on the bottom, actually. Anyway, let's just continue this vlog in disappointment. I really wanted to try and read all of these before the winner got announced. If I wanted to try and read all of these before the vote for the winner finished, so I could have like voted. But I mean, I'm still glad I voted for A Fading to Blood, even though the Spellshop I think is still my favorite so far. And I did really enjoy Phantasma. Like, these 3 were great. Very excited to read Quicksilver now, though. But let's get my review of this over and done with. I have reading sprints in an hour and a half, public reading sprints, where I can read whatever the first Born of Blood and Ash book is called on my Kindle. Or am I reading Quicksilver? I don't know what order I put it in.
The writing was really solid. We get to see her succeed, we get to see her fail, and I thought it was a perfectly well-rounded book for me at this big age.
Oh, I still have Halloween decorations up. It could stay there. I think it looks good there. Okay, A Touch of Darkness. I did spend most of yesterday reading this, and I unfortunately had to DNF it. I was really not enjoying my time again. I wasn't like this one. And with this being a series, I actually had pretty high hopes for it, but then I think it might just be the Hades and Persephone storyline. It might just be that kind of story that doesn't resonate with me, because I ended up reading Lore Olympus last month, and I DNF'd the entire series. I read volume 1, I thought it was okay, but I just didn't vibe with it, so I DNF'd it. So maybe it's something that I don't really personally enjoy. I just don't like Hades and Persephone stories. I don't really seem to get along with a whole lot of mythology retellings or ones that make them like really, really modern, because I think I've read a few now and I haven't really enjoyed them. I did like A Fate Inked in Blood, but that wasn't like modernized, it wasn't made contemporary, whereas this one is. So we do follow Persephone, and this is a modern day contemporary retelling of the Hades and Persephone story. Not that I'm very well versed in that story myself, I don't really know a whole lot there, but we do have Persephone getting invited to Nevernight, which is a club where Hades, the god of the underworld, god of the dead, he makes deals with people. And I'm not a big fan of stories where they make Hades to be such a sensitive and moral person. I mean, obviously, like, it's absolutely fine to have that take on that character, but it seems like every single time I read about like a Hades story, they always make him the good guy, and it feels a little bit forced in this as well. It just feels like he's too much of a good guy. He's like sometimes too intuitive, and that just really took me out of the story. It also took me out of the story that I didn't really like Persephone all that much. I thought she kept making silly decisions, and firstly, and this isn't me bashing people who have vanilla lattes, but firstly, I kind of feel like I got a sense of that from the very first chapter. The first time we meet Persephone, she's in a coffee shop and she's ordering a vanilla latte. Now, again, like, it's absolutely fine to have a vanilla latte. I like the taste of vanilla lattes every now and then myself. It's absolutely fine. But when you're introducing a character like Persephone and she's ordering a vanilla latte, it just sets up this idea that narratively this is going to be another run-of-the-mill kind of romance. It's going to be pretty vanilla, and that's kind of what it was feeling like up until the point I DNF'd it. It just didn't feel like we were doing anything like new or original, really. Like, there was this contemporary world where things were called like New Athens or New Greece, and all it was just Scarlet St. Clair just putting new in front of place names like New York, you know what I mean? I also don't think this is very well written, and this was a problem I had with What the River Knows by Isabella Banez when I read that last month. Sometimes it felt like the dialogue was cut in places, so then a character would respond to something and it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense in the flow of the conversation. Like, a character would respond to something that didn't really make sense in the like linear flow of the convo. It would almost be like they were replying to something or replying to a line that was cut. So I wonder if maybe something like that happened a few times in this, and it did happen with What the River Knows as well. It took me out of the story sometimes because, like, what are you actually responding to? Like, what are you talking about? So I don't think this was like the best written. I do think it could have had a few more edits. I didn't listen to this to the audiobook, but I even imagine when someone's reading it out loud, you will be able to hear how clunky and out of flow that conversation is. And I was like, okay, I can overlook a lot of these grammatical errors, editing errors, you know, I could overlook all of that if the romance was hooking me, and it just wasn't. I couldn't really root for Persephone because it felt like she was like very quick to judge people, and yeah, she was making the worst decisions, and it just felt like she was girl bossing too close to the sun. She needed to slow down and calm down. And then we got to Hades, and I just couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't see the appeal. And the amount of times people would mention, oh, they have sexual tension, or there was like so much sexual tension in the air from the narrator or from other characters, I didn't feel it. I was like, oh, are you actually going to show me the sexual tension, or are you just going to tell me they have a sexual tension? I don't feel it. I may prefer this if this was like a more toxic romance rather than just a plain run-of-the-mill romance, because then at least I could find a little bit more believable with like the Hades character. And again, it is absolutely fine for authors to totally reinvent characters and, you know, make them different, but like, this is now like maybe the third time I've read about Hades being sensitive and so caring and all of this, so I'm like, I just want like a bad boy. Everyone loves a bad boy.
Oh, we all like a bad boy though, don't we?
Yeah, not a fucking terrorist like Chris.
It would be absolutely fine to have it a little bit more toxic than it was, and it wasn't. DNF. I couldn't finish it. I was like, I'm not wasting my time with this. Absolutely not. Not when I still have 2 more books to go. I'm like, oh my god, is this never going to end? There have been some in this video that I have genuinely enjoyed. In fact, I'm surprised I got like 3 books over a 4 star so far. Like, that's amazing for me. And so it's not like I'm hating everything. I just have very particular needs and desires when it comes to these books. And I am still learning the genre. I'm still learning what works and what doesn't work and what works in my taste. But hopefully that's okay. Hopefully you're not thinking I'm just shitting on everything. I'm excited to get to the final 2. I do have public reading sprints in like an hour and a half-ish. So I'm going to make myself a homemade cappuccino. Not vanilla. I'm not putting vanilla. I don't even have vanilla syrup. I have pumpkin spice. I won't be putting that in. I'm just going to have a plain old cappuccino. And yeah, I'll start the next book. It's either Quicksilver or the Shadow in the Ember, whatever it's called. One of the ones I'm going to be reading on my Kindle. Let's hope I prefer it way more than A Touch of Darkness. Okay. Oh man, I just pressed record and then Toby was like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. Did you not want to come and film with me? Anyway, I did my public reading sprints yesterday. They lasted nearly 11 hours. And I think it took me around about 8 hours and 20 minutes to read all of A Shadow in the Ember. I read all of it during those sprints, and I had to make the last sprint an hour and 20 minutes for me to actually like finish it. It was getting to way past midnight in the UK, so I had to scramble at the end there. But I feel like that was still like really good progress. I managed to read it all pretty much in one sitting, and I didn't realize how big the book was. That's the thing with Kindle books, I don't actually know how big they are until I like actually get started, and then it's like, oh, you have like 15 hours left in the book. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? My brain is reading in like 3 times speed. What do you mean 15 hours? But it's fine, it all worked out in the end. So I saw some like parallels between A Shadow in the Ember and A Fating to Blood. We have like Freya in A Fating to Blood, who has this fate, this destiny that she's kind of challenging. And then in A Shadow in the Ember, we follow Sarah, or Seraphina, which is her full name. We'll call her Sarah. She has a destiny where she has to fall in love with the primal of death and get him to fall in love with her, and then she has to betray him and kill him. That's kind of like the initial premise. At the beginning as well, it seems like there are like gods that are killing mortals, and Sarah is watching this and she meets a guy called Ash, who is also like a god. It felt like a little bit of a murder mystery to begin with, and I was kind of enjoying that plot, I'm not gonna lie. That kind of plot was great, and it did involve like gods like killing innocent children as well. It was kind of shocking. I think there was like something with a baby to begin with, but I was like very invested in like what was actually going on, and if this would be like a bit of a buddy cop kind of book. But it really doesn't turn into that at all. It felt like it kind of went the same like avenue as things like A Court of Thorns and Roses. It felt like again it was like being a little bit safe, but I guess this came out a few years ago. I guess it probably was a little bit more revolutionary when it first came out, but it didn't really feel all that brand new to me. This was my first Jennifer L. Armentrout book, and probably my last. Like, I didn't hate this book. I gave it a 2.5 stars. I was thinking of maybe 3.5 stars in the first half of this book, but then we got to around about 50% in, and it just started to drag. Like, it was dragging so much, and so many problems I have with this book. We have so much, you know, context, so much world and information that we're given through a sort of like an interrogation kind of format. We have Sarah like asking a question, it will be answered, and then ask another question, it will be answered. And that's pretty much the entire way through as well. Like, everything we find out about this world is again through questions, through dialogue. This happens a lot with a lot of the stories that I'm reading at the minute, so I can't really fault this one too much for, you know, following that same route. But I'm kind of bored of that revelation of a world. I want to see this world develop and blossom, and I don't really know like other ways of like bringing that information about. It seems like the whole Q&A back and forth is the main way that these authors want to tell the story and tell us what this world is about, like the history and like the goal essentially, and like what we need to end up doing from that point on. But it got so boring and so repetitive, and it was becoming such a slog to get through. I did like Sarah though. I thought she was a good protagonist, and I liked her power as well. She has a pretty cool power, and it was starting to feel a little bit like Pet Sematary at certain parts as well. If you read this, you kind of know exactly what I mean. But yeah, that was kind of a little bit creepy. A couple of nitpicky things. A kaleidoscope of was used quite a lot. Like a kaleidoscope of hair, a kaleidoscope of whatever. Like, that was used quite a lot. The swell of my breasts, or the swell of her breasts, was used quite a lot too. In fact, it was used twice in the first chapter. Twice. in one chapter. And I couldn't really enjoy any of the sex scenes when the main character's love interest is called Ash. I mean, they do have another name, but like the sex scenes that we were getting would use the name Ash, and my cat is called Ash, my son is called Ash. Like, I cannot read, and like I asked this in my reading sprints as well, like, can you read a book where you know someone with the same name and they're doing things? Like Ash, he would love to finger blast Sarah. Like seriously, like, the amount of, you know, using the 5-finger discount on her coochie was a lot. It was a little bit overkill, and the fact that he would be able to finish himself without even touching himself or anything, I was like, oh my god, this is happening way too quickly. This is a new record. Like, one of my criticisms of a lot of romance books I've read is that the guy just comes like that. I mean, very accurate to a lot of guys I know, and a lot of guys I've been with, absolutely. But come on, this is a fiction. Last song, oh, his length was used quite a lot too. Oh my god. I don't know, like, repetition gets me for some reason. But yeah, it was really weird as well, because when the first sex scene happened between Sarah and Ash, that was when, like, I was lying downstairs, I was listening to the audiobook and reading on my Kindle at the same time, and that was when Ash, my cat, decided to come in and start doing biscuits on me and lie down. I was like, you've been lying upstairs, you've been asleep upstairs for, you know, the last hour or so. You decided to come down while the sex scene is starting. Why? I did like a battle that happened near the end. I did think some parts of it did get quite exciting. There are these like creature things as well that was quite gnarly, and I like the depiction of those. Like, some parts of it did feel a bit scary, and I love those like horror elements that could be in there. I liked how Sarah fit in with the progression of that plot as well, so it wasn't even just the fact that all of this was happening, but Sarah had like a hand in it too. Yeah, there's a lot of explaining the rules of the world and factions and stuff in dialogue. Like, literally, Sarah would ask a question and it would just be answered straight away. I'm just like, is there any other way we can find this shit out? We have an exciting conversation in the last 3 chapters, just full of talk. I agree. I agree with myself. Like, literally my notes on my phone. I agree with myself. It is just full of talk. Question gets answered. Learn more about the world. Prophecies through talk. Ugh, I literally wrote that. Yes, I agree. Yeah, we had like quite an exciting moment. There was, yeah, this really epic confrontation. And that happened, I think, chapter 41, 42 or something. And then the last 3 chapters is just... And that's how we figure everything out. And I got like really bored of that. I'm like, 2.5 really should probably be a 2. But I'll keep it at 2.5 because there was a lot of it that I was like, okay, like, this is easily bingeable. Like, I'm binging this book today and it's like so easy to do. So even though I was like, okay, let's be over, please, I didn't want to DNF it. Which, at this point, is a low bar. But it's a bar nonetheless. So not a bad book at all. I just found it repetitive, a little boring. But I liked the characters. The characters were fine. Although I wasn't really invested in very many of them by the end of it. Maybe just like Sarah, I was like kind of rooting for her. But like at the same time, nobody else really stuck out to me. So it was kind of flat there. Anyway, I'm just going to stick with the 2.5. You know, average, right bang in the middle. I do have high hopes for this last book, Quicksilver, though. A few people told me in those reading sprints that they were very excited for me to read it and they loved it. And also with it being the final book in this vlog, I'm hoping we end on a high and not on a low note. Okay, final book of the vlog. Can I get a drum roll, please, for my final rating? So I, Gavin Hetherington III, has given Quicksilver a 5 stars, favourite of the vlog. I loved it. I'm not even kidding. I obviously saved the best for last, and it was so unintentional too. I was starting to think that I would not be giving any of these books a 5-star, but no, it turns out, actually, this one had just kind of what I needed. Well, actually, I don't know if I've been broken down to this point. Like, I'm a little bit, you know, fed up now, 10 books in. I kind of just want to move on to something else. So now I'm like, if I had read this first, would I have given it a 5-star? I don't know. I don't know if maybe there's a part of me that was like maybe overlooking some of the problems that there might be in this book just so that I could end on a high. But no, I don't think it genuinely is that, because there is so much that I love about this book and so much I want to talk about. Like, even my like notes, I do have some like notes that I want to talk about. This follows Ceres and she is a thief, and it's a line of work that literally gets her whole town into trouble. And you know, as a character to begin with, in that like very first few chapters, I was like a little bit unsure because it did seem like she was being a little bit selfish. I mean, she was doing things for her younger brother, but at the same time, like, a really good point was raised in that what you're doing, aka stealing from the Undying Queen, could cause so much death in their town, and there are so many more lives at stake if she doesn't give back what she's stolen. And so I was a little bit on the fence with her to begin with. I also want to say I was listening to this via audio as well as reading on the Kindle, just like I did with Ember in the Ashes, and I love the audiobook. Oh my god, I love the fact that we had like a female narrator, but when whenever a guy would talk in the book, they actually got like a male actor to voice those lines. In 9 times out of 10, when I'm reading an audiobook and someone tries to do a voice, like say if like a guy is narrating an audiobook and he has to do a female voice and vice versa, 9 times out of 10, I don't really like the sound of that voice. Like, I can tell they're putting it on and I can tell that they're not actually, you know, the characters, and that really does take me out of the story sometimes. But in this one, like, I was so pleasantly surprised when, you know, a guy would talk at the very start and it was like a male voice that was coming out. I was like, oh, that's different. I haven't listened to a whole lot of audiobooks that actually do that. I'm sure there are loads, but I personally haven't really listened to very many. So I really enjoyed that. But yeah, she is captured. There is like this really like exciting moment when she is like facing death, and oh my god, like, I literally thought like the worst was going to happen like so early on. Like obviously like it wouldn't, but I felt it through the tension of the story. Like I thought this was so well written. The fact that I could actually get scared for a main character like 3 or 4 chapters in just speaks volumes, I guess, to the writing style. I thought like this was really well done. And yeah, the plot progresses. Sirius does open up a portal to the Fey world, and that's where we meet Kingfisher, who is like the enemies to lovers guy, you know, like the one that we are rooting for romantically. And yeah, all of this world is opening up, and the fact that Sirius has actually opened up many a portal that she shouldn't have opened, and it just makes like for such an exciting and fast-paced plot, especially since like Sirius is the catalyst of the story. Like the plot doesn't happen to her, she is the plot essentially. And so I was really pleasantly surprised by the importance of the main character in how she was, you know, dictating the story rather than it being the other way around. And I loved that queen as well, you know, the Undying Queen. I loved her. I loved the fact that she was like so ruthless. I loved the way that the audiobook narrator also voiced her too. Like there was just like an edge to her voice. Definitely going to be 1000% better than Gal Gadot in the upcoming Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. 1100%. In fact, actually, I was getting vibes from, you know, the Lunar Chronicles. I can't remember so much of the Lunar Chronicles because I read it so long ago, but there was like a villainous queen in that too. I got like little flashbacks back to her. Kingfisher, or just Fisher, is like a tortured soul, a tortured hero. He's quite brooding, can be quite moody, and like the banter between him and Sirius is like very cutthroat a lot of the times actually. Like it definitely is like enemies to lovers. It wasn't like perfect enemies to lovers. Some of it felt a little bit insta-lusty, but each of them gave as good as they got. Until they gave as good as they got, you know what I mean? In terms of romance, like they gave as good as they got. Like it was a little bit spicy. Probably not as spicy as I would have liked, but it was spicy nonetheless. And I think it helps that I really did like both the main characters. I was a little bit unsure about Fisher to begin with, especially since like the whole brooding kind of archetype of a male main character does make me close my eyes out sometimes because I'm thinking, okay, you're doing too much. You're doing too much, calm down. But I thought Fisher was like a really good one, and we learn more about him as we go on, and it does get like a little bit depressing, and we do find out so much more, but it's great. It's great. Like, it's great to learn more about him. Even the side characters as well, like some of the other characters who help to build this narrative too, also remind me of the Spellshop because I loved some of the secondary characters of the Spellshop. But in this one as well, it just felt like a found family. And I'm such a sucker for found family that is one of the reasons why I gave this 5 stars. I just love that trope so much. It's one of my favourites. One of my favourite like story styles. And it just made me fall in love with characters even more. World building is what I thought was a huge improvement over a lot of the books I've read in this video also. There was like some things to do with alchemy, and I didn't think it was completely explained, and I think there's still so much that we need to learn about, and I don't mind that as much knowing that this is going to be a series, and I'm really excited to read a sequel. I really do want to continue reading the series, but I do think we got enough of it in this book to leave some mystique, some mystery about the whole world building aspect of it, the whole magic system, to continue finding things out in the future. It's just like giving us a little taste of what's to come, I guess. Well, hopefully, you know, a lot more is like explained in the future. I do think there were like some gaps in the story, some gaps in the world building, but again, like I'm trying not to be as picky as I have been. I'm doing my absolute best here to be as nice as possible. I hope you appreciate. Yeah, I loved Evelyn and Ren. I thought each of them brought something like really unique to the narrative, and they weren't as flat as like other secondary characters in, say, A Shadow in the Ember or A Touch of Darkness. The plot was pretty fast. There was like a little bit of a slow part, but I feel like that's in every single book now. I need to kind of put my head out my own ass and be like, okay, sometimes books need to slow down. It's okay when it does that. And I did find like some of it did come across as quite slow, but it was very exciting. Some of it came across as quite messy. Like the action towards the end came across as quite messy, but like in a really exciting way that we end up having like a few twists and turns that I thought was really surprising. And then yeah, we have like this cliffhanger that really just made me want to read the next book. I'm very invested. Definitely messy, but very enthralling. It was so enthralling. I'm so excited to continue. And that's so hard to talk spoiler free about these books at this point. I've done like 10 reviews back to back now, trying to be as spoiler free as possible. I'm so sorry if I've spoiled anything at all throughout this video. I do apologize. But there's only so many times I can say, oh, I liked it or I don't like it in so many words. So to all of those who bullied me in the live show yesterday during those public reading sprints, telling me that if I didn't enjoy Quicksilver, you would dox me. I'm kidding, you didn't actually do that. I loved it. I did. I really loved it. Probably going to be my best books of the year just because it was just a frolicking good time. Spent all day reading it. It's now so late. I have a live show at midnight in just a few hours in the UK. Like, what am I doing? So yeah, it's very late right now. It's starting to rain. Just perfect vibes to end this vlog. And I'm so glad to come to the end of this vlog. I really am. I had a great time still. I thought it was such a fun time. I do love doing these challenges, discovering books that I may not have read otherwise. And it was just overall like a really good experience. Just some of these books did drag me down. So I will put on the screen my ranking, my personal ranking of the 10 books that I've read. And I'm going to compare it against the Goodreads official top 10 that was, you know, revealed when the winner was announced. But yeah, Quicksilver is my number 1 with a 5-star. And then the Spellshop is second. A Fating to Blood is third. Both of those have a 4.5 star. Fourth place is Phantasma for me, which I gave a 4-star. And I gave Nothing a 3 or a 3.5, which is very interesting. Rounding out my top 5 is When the Moon Hatched with a 2.5. And then A Shadow in the Ember just below it with a 2.5 as well. 7th is House of Flame and Shadow with a 2-star that I read earlier this year. Number 8, Assistant to the Villain, a 1.5. And then obviously my 2 DNFs, A Touch of Darkness and Zodiac Academy 1, are both at the bottom. The average for this video in terms of ratings would be a 3.3 out of 5 without the DNFs, but it would be a 2.9 if I included the DNFs and I gave both of them 1 star. So even then with the 2 DNFs, a 2.9 out of 5 is still pretty fantastic. Like say 2.5 is the middle, and to be just above that is pretty good. Like 3.3 without the DNFs, fantastic. Honestly, I'm so happy with that. I'm so sad though, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't vote for Quicksilver in the Goodreads Choice Awards. I wish I'd read it earlier so that I could have voted for it. And I'm still happy about voting for A Fating to Blood because it came 3rd in my overall ranking. But yeah, I'm hoping next year I'm a lot quicker and a lot better with reading the book so that when I get to voting on the final day, I can actually do it, having read everything with a, you know, an informed decision. But yeah, voting for the winner came quicker than Ash in A Shadow in the Ember. I didn't have a chance. So that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave this video a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave all your comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know if you read any of the books that I read in this video. Let me know your thoughts on the Goodreads Choice Awards this year. Do you have any things that you love about it? Any things you hate about it? Just chat to me down below. I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons for supporting my channel. If you'd like to join my Patreon, then the link is in the description box. But yeah, I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!